Eyes locked and hearts in tune. You believe in me and I trust in you, my God.
Welcome into another episode of the Turn Fantasy Golf Podcast. My name is Andrew Poor. I go by Andrew Putters. I'm here with my man, Joe Nicely, and we are deep in the mid-ray section of the playoffs for 2020. And first of all, let's get some things off the books. This podcast is brought to you by Rotoballer.com. Joe, tell us a little bit about Rotoballer.
Hey, man. Go over Rotoballer. We got some amazing stuff going over there. Great PGA premium package. Got a lineup optimizer, ownership projections, betting articles, tons of great stuff. You can use promo code NICE, N-I-C-E, to get a discount when you sign up. And we also got tons of great free articles over there. So definitely go check out rotoballer.com.
That's right. That's right. One article I love to hit on every week is Tee Off Sports article. The man is rocking and rolling. Had a little rough week last week, but he'll get back on track. Spencer, if you're looking for any kind of in-depth talk about the golf course, basically, Josh, or the other article about the course detail, it'll define anything you're looking for and what players to play this weekend.
Yeah, those guys are both great, man. Both guys you mentioned, Spencer does an unbelievable job with those betting articles. The dude just consistently hits winners as well as anybody that I know of in the industry. And Josh Bennett does an amazing hole-by-hole breakdown, uses Google Earth to kind of break down the course, give you an idea of the layout. Really goes in depth on every single hole. Both those guys do amazing work and have free and premium articles over there. So definitely worth checking out just for those two guys alone.
That's right. That's right. Both free and premium. Last week, me and neither Joe or I, neither one had anything really going for us on the fantasy side, but we had a big weekend. Joe had a rough week last week, but we topped it off with a big weekend, and we'll have a little bit of a different sector of our show coming towards you here in another month or so, and that's going to be called the Sunday Stroll edition of the Turn Fantasy Golf Pod. And it's basically going to be a little bit of a breakdown of what we do with our group, our guys group of our little private fantasy league. And we're going to talk about all the funny stuff that happens with that. So we had our draft this past weekend. If you follow us on Twitter, you probably saw that. How you feeling about your team, Joe, on the Sunday Stroll?
Man, I feel okay. Like you said, it was a rough week last week. Thank you very much, by the way, for all the shout outs and well wishes from everybody. Really means a lot to me. Lost a friend of mine last week from today, last Monday. So it was a tough week. But definitely want to say thank you to everybody for reaching out on Twitter. Nagels Bagels, our buddy, had some nice words on his show. Joe and Chad from the Preferred Lines Pod sent some very nice DMs my way. And thanks to all the guys at Rotoballer for covering all my stuff. Thanks to you, Andrew. You did an amazing job solo last week. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of get that out of the way and say it really does mean a lot to me. Everybody reaching out the way they did. But my football team, I don't know. I didn't get to spend a ton of time on it last week. Honestly, not as much prep as I usually do. And we went from an 8 to 10 team league this year, which I felt like really changed things up quite a bit. I drew the first pick and took Christian McCaffrey. Felt like that was a no-brainer, but I don't know, man. We'll see how it goes. How'd you feel about your team?
I felt great. We had one of the new saps got sandwiched in between us. You drew the number 1, I drew the number 3. One of the new saps, Drew Fugit, drew number 2, and just really crapped the bed on his pick with Ezekiel Elliott. Left me Shaq Barkley at the number 3 pick. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. I don't know, feeling pretty good. I've had last pick in the draft every year that I've been in it so far. So I'm looking forward to this year. It's always a good time. Group text blows up. And,
oh yeah, it's almost that time, man. It'll be a lot of fun. So we hope people will check us out when it comes to fantasy football as well. But focused on golf. Big week this week, heading into the second leg of the playoffs. Tons of great players in this field, and I'm really excited, man. Happy to be back. Happy to be talking about golf.
That's right. That's right. So the first leg of the playoffs last week, the Northern Trust Championship, and we talked a little bit about this before we come on. That I was really just as well as DJ played and not shooting 30 under. I said it really disappointed me seeing what he did to one of my favorite golf courses. He pretty much just backhanded it all weekend. He, God, he just played so good. It's just like he was 8 foot on every hole, and he started making a few putts. English showed out, I thought, consistently playing.
Yeah, very, very impressive. We'll talk about him a little bit as we get into this week, but man, he's really been impressive this year, especially since the break. I think maybe he missed a cut at the Schwab or the Heritage, but every tournament since then he's had a top 25. So he's been unbelievably consistent, just a top 25 machine this year. But yeah, DJ, man, I mean, he can make golf courses look silly. That's what he did at TPC Boston last week. I didn't get to watch as much as I normally do, but saw enough to know what was going on. We've seen him do it before. He's just one of my favorites, man. So maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I'll kind of die on the hill that DJ's best is better than anybody else's best, in my opinion. When DJ's got his A game and is playing his best, I don't feel like anybody can beat him. Unfortunately, we don't see it often enough in some of the spots we'd like to in the major championships. But when he gets going like he did last week, he's almost impossible to beat, and it's just super fun to watch. We always like to watch great competitive tournaments, but sometimes it's fun to just see one of the top players in the world go out there and play the best that they can play, and that's definitely what DJ did last week.
Absolutely, yeah. And your boy Berger finished tied for third, or third place alone. So, yeah, your guys were up there last weekend. In the
yeah, man. I didn't get to. I made some lineups. Obviously, didn't get to spend as much time on it as I normally do. Had a lot of stuff going on, but I had a lot of things right last week, but just missed on some key guys, and that's kind of the way it was for me at the Wyndham. We didn't get to talk about that last week, but had a lot of things right at the Wyndham, but just a couple key misses with lineup construction killed me, and that's kind of what it was last week. Jason Day and Tony Finau, a couple of pretty big misses for me, kind of undone all the things I got right. Felt like I did right. So it's just one of those frustrating weeks where you look at your lineups and you're like, man, I've got a ton of this stuff right, but just a couple key misses kind of take you out of the contention for big money.
That's right. So this week, coming up, second round of the
I can't hear you. You're muted.
Oh, goodness. I got to start over then. Okay, here we go. Second round of the BMW Championship. Going to be played at Olympia Fields Country Club. The North Course. Par 70, 73, 66. Designed and kind of established 1915 by Willie Parker Jr. One thing you pointed out to me before we started, 6 par 4s over 450, only 2 par 5s, both of them over 600. What do we need to know about this golf course is it is a championship golf course, always has been. Not so much on the PGA Tour, but everywhere else around. It's hosted a couple let's see, where'd my screen go? It's hosted a couple PGA championships, a couple US Opens in the history of US AM, a senior open, a women's PGA, several Western Opens back in the day. Probably 5 of them. And now the BMW Championship. And you mentioned also there's a collegiate tournament there once a year, I believe.
Yeah, the University of Illinois, they have an invitational tournament there every year, big college event. So some of these guys that are newer on tour have got some experience with this course. We're kind of stretching to put narratives together as far as course history this week, but several of the young guys have played it, have seen it. Bryson D Chambeau won the 2015 U.S. Amateur here, so there's a connection there. But yeah, the last kind of full field, really down and dirty PGA Tour event we saw here was the 2003 U.S. Open, which Jim Furyk won at 8 under par. So we're really guessing as to how this is going to play. We know it's long on the scorecard. Like you said, we got 6 or 7 par fours of over 450. So that's definitely a stat you can dig into there. See which players score well on those. A couple of par fives, both over 600. A couple of really long par threes. So we're going to see a lot of length here. We don't know if that's going to translate to tougher scoring conditions. I read an article today, this afternoon, that some people are reporting the roughs over 5 inches. So that could definitely be a factor. Kind of like a couple weeks ago at the PGA, we're kind of guessing a little bit as to how it's going to play. But we can assume that it's going to play long. We know that. If the rough's going to be fairly penal, we kind of want to lean on guys that are long and accurate. Also kind of harkens back to the PGA Championship a bit. And we got POA greens, which is something we can look at, guys that putt well on POA, which not everyone does. But that's kind of what we know about the golf course. I don't think it's going to be super hard U.S. Open type conditions, but I think it's going to be fairly tough. I don't think we're going to see anybody at 30 under this week. So we're just kind of guessing, kind of making some assumptions on it, but we'll kind of dig into it as we get into the salary scale here.
Yeah. So you mentioned Brad the shoot. Let's just go ahead and talk about him. Bryson D Chambeau won the USAM there a few years back. However, he's kind of been trending backwards. Didn't have everything together at the U.S. Open. I mean, he played well. See where he finished there. Let's see. I'm sorry, I said U.S. Open. I meant PGA Championship. Finished T4 there, but on Sunday coming in, hit some iron shots that were just wasn't there. Missed the cut last week. So what are you thinking on Bryson? You think he's still in good form? It's Memorial. We knew what happened there. T30 in Memphis, tie for 4th PGA, missed cut Northern Trust. Where are you putting with him?
Well, he's tricky, man. There for a while after the restart, we were just relentlessly rostering him, right? I mean, every single week we were rostering him with no fear. But now we're kind of getting into some of these different golf courses. And it's really weird because his course history, when you look back, it's kind of like he's almost playing the opposite way now. He had won at TPC Boston in the past, in last week's course, and then missed the cut. So that's kind of weird. He had won at Memorial before, didn't play well at Muirfield Village at the Memorial this year. So it's kind of weird. We're going into this week. He won the 2015 USAM here, but we don't know how that's going to translate with his new style. I think a lot of it's going to come down to how penal the rough is. Is he going to be able to overpower this golf course? I don't know. But we do know that he's been struggling with long approach shots with his irons, and that's something that he's probably going to be facing quite a bit this week. If he's not able to kind of bomb and gouge it down there where he's got wedges in his hand, I'm a little worried about his long iron play. So to answer your question, I'm kind of lukewarm on Bryson. I think he's got a chance to play extremely well here. His length is definitely going to be an advantage, but he's going to have to be fairly accurate, it sounds like. So I'm not super strong either way on Bryson. One of those guys that I'll probably want to get some exposure to, but I won't be all in or all out.
Right. So we'll group the top 6 guys in here: Simpson, McElroy, DeChambeau, JT, Rahm, and DJ. Are you still? I mean, you going to still ride the wave of DJ, or do you like to put him away after we've seen it? You don't want to play him coming off a lot of time off, but then it also seems like you might not want to play him the week after a victory. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we've touched on that in this pod before. DJ likes to enjoy the victories, I think. But it's also very, very tempting, man, when you see a guy go out there and just dominate a golf course the way he did last week. It is so tempting to just continue trying to ride the hot hand, especially when he looked so impressive just all week long. We know how well he can play when he gets going. We know we saw him winning bunches before. So, there again, I'll probably have a little bit of DJ. I'm not all in or all out on him. I really like JT this week. I don't know that he'll go overlooked, but I think a lot of people will be talking about DJ. And JT's been still playing really well. He's not had great finishes, but he's lost strokes putting in three straight starts, which has kind of hurt his results. But he's still playing tee to green very, very well, striking his irons very, very well. So I think he's a guy that might be flying under the radar just a little bit this week. Rory, I just can't do right now. I'm just taking a stand. If he beats me, he beats me, which we know that he can. He's capable of doing, but I just won't be there. It's just not going for him right now. I don't know if it's the fans thing. Heard some talk about that he's struggling without the fans. So maybe that's part of the problem, but his game just isn't there right now. And Webb, we think maybe this course is going to be a little bit too long for him. We like to target him on shorter courses. But man, he's playing so well that he's really hard to ignore. And then you look back and you see a guy like Jim Furyk won on this course back when the U.S. Open was here, and you think, well, maybe Webb's kind of fairways and green stock and work. We know he's a tremendous iron player. He's great from 175 plus out. So I mean, I think you definitely have to give Webb some consideration this week.
Yeah, of that group, I'm with you on JT. I feel like we know the Rom has the talent. So DJ coming off of a victory, we're probably gonna be off of him. D Chambeau trending down, not necessarily going the correct way. Rory, like you said, his game's not here. The course might be too long for Webb. Rom, we love his talent. We don't necessarily love his game all 4 rounds. JT is just solid. He'll finish like 12th place in the tournament, and it feels like you never even saw him hit a shot on TV. So
Right.
It's almost like it's effortless. So if he gets that putter rolling, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, he lost like 4 strokes putting last week, which is horrible. And I'm not even sure where he finished, but I mean it's decent. And that, like I said, he's lost strokes putting in every start since he won in Memphis. So that's kind of what's putting a dampening on his results. Still hitting his irons really well, still hitting his driver really well. So if things were to click with the putter, which he does like POA, puts well on POA, we could see kind of an explosion from JT this week. I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see that. So he's probably my favorite up at the top. Then I would also look at DJ and Webb, maybe a little bit of Bryson, but won't be in on Rom, won't be in on Rory. And then when you drop down into nines, there's a whole lot to like, or at least there's a lot that I like.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's look down here in the nines. Xander, Berger, Morikawa. How in the world is Morikawa less than Berger and Xander? I don't know. Jason Day, we still don't know really what to do with him. I love him as a play on this.
Broke my heart last week.
What's that?
Day broke my heart last week. That is all.
Absolutely. Yeah. Still love Day. Maybe cost too much. I don't know. Scotty Sheffield showed a lot last week. Actually showed a lot the last couple of weeks. Had a great year so far, but we probably still can't put enough stock in him up here in the 9,000 range. I like Morikawa and Berger in that one. I don't hate Xander, but Morikawa and Berger seem to have had a better year as a whole.
Yeah, well, the wins are there for them, and they haven't been for Xander this year. I was really big on Xander at the PGA, which he played well, but still hadn't been able to grab that big major win. But I really like Xander this week, just because his game is so complete. When we don't really know exactly how a course is going to play, I like to lean on these guys that are just really solid in every area of the game, which Xander is. He drives the ball long and straight. His irons haven't been great, but he's been making up for it with a tremendous short game. So you kind of wonder if his irons are going to start popping a little bit, what can happen there. But yeah, man, I really love that trio there that you mentioned bunched together. Xander, Berger, and Morikawa. Berger's just been unbelievably consistent. Missed a cut there at Muirfield coming off a couple-week break, but other than that, man, he's gained strokes tee to green in every single start this year, before the break and after the break, other than that outing at the Memorial. Doesn't get any more consistent than that, man. The guy's got a win since the restart. I think top three finishes. Just hitting on all cylinders right now. I absolutely love him. I've been rostering him almost every week. I know you're not as big on it as I am, but just love how he's playing right now. Morikawa, I'm a big fan. I really like him on this setup. Kind of harkens back to the PGA. I think you're going to need to hit it long and straight, which he can do. Be accurate on approach, which we know that he's one of the best in the world. So I really do like those three guys right there. I don't know that I'll go back to today, even though he's kind of an interesting bounce back candidate after he burned a lot of people last week. Might be somebody you could hop back on. Scheffler, I don't love the price, but man, I love how he's playing right now. Shot 59 last week, obviously. Played really well at the PGA. I think he's second in this field in strokes gained tee to green over the last 4 events. So, yeah, the price is probably more than we want to pay, but it does feel like there's tons of upside there. Then you get down in the eights. I kind of like the lower end of the eights better. Who jumps out at you in that range?
Talking about in the eights?
Yeah.
Several. I mean, obviously you got Cantlay, Reed, Finau. They're always going to be talked about in any fantasy. Cantlay's the most consistent. However, there's no cut. Reed could shoot 80 or 65 on any golf course in America. Finau probably sticks out the most. It just kind of jumps out to you. Didn't play well last week, but just barely missed the cut. So, T4th and the PGA played well, and 3M did not play well. The one thing you gotta like about Finau is the long par fours really won't bother him. He makes a lot of birdies. So,
Right.
As you get on down, Kisner's got to be definitely out, and Hatton just because of the length. Adam Scott might be the worst putter on this planet Earth. Maddie Wolf. So you talking about? Let's get them down here to these two guys, Maddie Wolf.
You're getting to my boys now, right here.
Let's talk about those two. Maddie Wolf is an interesting pick because the guy could literally win this tournament and he could literally finish last. He hits it so far, the par fours will not be an issue. He'll probably be able to reach both these par fives and 2. We just don't know what kind of mind we're going to have. Played 4 rounds last week. I think like 65, 67, 77, 67. So I thought he had a bad weekend, but as I went back and did a little research, he just had one bad round.
One bad round Saturday.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maddie Wolf is, he's going to be a little bit more of a gamble. Hovland, though, the guy's a top 20 machine. He's like the Justin Rose of old that we was talking about, and he's still down here in the 8,000s. You got to roster Hovland every tournament. And as the harder these golf courses get, the longer they get, the straighter you got to hit it, the more you got to like him.
Yeah, I mean, he's a young guy, but just like you said, the harder the golf course, the more I like Hovland. That's kind of weird to say about a young guy. We normally lean more veterans, but with him, man, I think the harder the course, the better he plays. And I really love him this week, and I like Wolf a lot. I mean, I'll have a ton of lineups with both those guys in it, just because you feel like low 8s at that price point, you could legitimately see either one of these guys winning this tournament, top 5 in it, top 10 in it. I just feel like there's a ton of upside there. We got 4 guaranteed rounds. They can go out there and fire away. Don't have to worry about missing the cut, which you're probably a little more concerned with Wolf as far as missing the cut. But he's so explosive when he gets going. We saw at the Rocket Mortgage when he nearly won. Saw that final round at the PGA, just how low that he can go when he's got everything clicking. So I really love both those guys this week, man. I'll have a ton of lineups with Wolf and Hovland. But circling back around there to Kiz and Hatton, really like both those guys, but you do have concerns this week with how long this golf course is. We kind of said it before with both of those guys that they're scary to target on these long golf courses like this. So, yeah, I'm with you on those two.
Yeah, and it can't be a golf podcast without talking about Tiger Woods at 8,600. But it's not really his ball striking. It's going to be more of a putting issue. He just doesn't seem like he's got he's not. I don't know how to. I hate to even say this about this guy, but he doesn't have the game anymore to go out and make 9 birdies around. Doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, it's just not clicking for him right now. Like you said, the ball striking's actually been solid when you look at the numbers. The ball striking's been good. It's just like he's not putting rounds together, not making key putts at key times to keep rounds going, which you know how that is. Sometimes you can make a 7-footer for par and kind of keep your round going, keep your momentum where it needs to be, and he's just not been doing that. We touched on it with Rory, but you kind of have to wonder. Tiger's been playing in front of fans for his whole life, and you can argue it's a huge advantage for him because he always draws huge crowds, and none of these other guys do to that extent. So you can kind of wonder how the fans not being there is affecting him. I don't know that it's a huge impact, but it's definitely something worth throwing out there. But it just doesn't seem like everything's clicking for him right now. Maybe he's working on where he needs to be for the U.S. Open and for the Masters later in the fall. We certainly know that he keeps an eye on that tournament above all others, but it's just not clicking right now. So I probably won't be there with Tiger myself.
Yeah. Another player in this range that is going to go overlooked, I think, and he could have a good week. And if you're looking for maybe somebody that not a lot of people are going to be on, is Matsuyama. Hits it long, hits it straight, hits a lot of greens. He's played decent. He hasn't played great. He usually has a few bad holes around. That's kind of kept him out of the race on some of these tournaments, but he's definitely got the talent to compete in a no matter what the field is. What do you think about him?
Yeah, I was looking at him earlier. I played him quite a bit last week for the first time in a while. I've kind of been off him, kind of cooled off him since the restart. Went with him at the Memorial, I think, or the work day. I can't remember. Was pretty heavy on him. Then kind of cooled off. Got to watch him play some. Just didn't seem like it was there with him, and his putting is so bad most of the time. He's actually gained strokes putting the last couple of tournaments, which kind of makes you wonder how he's not finished higher, because usually if he makes any kind of putts, he's in the top 10. But he's an interesting play always, just because he's such a good ball striker, and he's actually normally good around the green scrambling, avoiding bogeys. His mistakes usually come with the flat stick, which is something that's tough to predict. So I'm probably a little cooler on Matsuyama than you are this week, just because I went down that road last week.
I understand completely. Let's move on down the sevens now. A lot of guys have played well. Probably the best that I see down here in the sevens that have played this year is, here as of late, Ryan Palmer, 7,600. None of these golf courses set up well for him, but he keeps on just rocking out top tens and shooting some big low numbers.
Yeah.
A lot of talent down here in the sevens. Woodland obviously sticks out. Cameron Champ sticks out. Other than those two, and then I said Ryan Palmer. Probably who else you looking at in the sevens, and I'm gonna tell you a couple of people that I'm definitely off here in the sevens.
Palmer, I think, is a good call. He's been tremendous with his irons. It's taken him to some really good finishes. He's playing good golf. We circle back around to the length. We have some concerns about that with him, but he's hitting his irons so well that he's an interesting play. Russell Henley really jumps out, which I'm kind of surprised to say at the top of the 7K range, but he really does jump out to me. He's been perhaps the best iron player on the PGA Tour since the restart. He's really hit his irons that well, but was just had a horrific streak with the putter where he was just could not make anything. He's straightened that out a bit. He comes in this week off back-to-back top tens, so he's got some good momentum going. He's playing really well. He's great from 175 plus out. Proximity numbers are great, so I'm really interested in Henley. And then you drop down there. You mentioned Palmer and Champ, who are intriguing plays. And a guy that I'm surprised to kind of find myself liking a lot this week. It's a guy we've not talked about, I don't think, since we've been doing this show. But he's a guy that last year I rostered quite a bit at the start of the year with some success, and that's Jason Kokrak. They're at 75. I'm really interested in him. He's had back-to-back top 15s, coming in with really good proximity numbers. Really good from 175 plus and 200 plus. He's streaky, but he's trending in the right direction. So that's a guy that I find myself really intrigued with there in the mid sevens. You got any thoughts on Kokrak? I know we rarely talk about him, but he's sticking out to me this week.
Normally, I like Kokrak on a lot of golf courses just because he hits so many fairways and so many greens. But it's really hard to follow him on the PGA Tour app whenever you start seeing him missing 2 foot 8-inch putts for par when you need him, and that's just hard for me to stomach sometimes. So, you know, I don't know. That's the only downside to him.
I feel you, man, and I've been there with him. Maybe it's just been a while, so I'm willing to kind of get back on the horse with him a little bit. But we also want to mention there's 70 guys in this field. It's a no-cut event, so we do want to kind of maybe look for ways to be contrarian as we start going down through the salary scale, because there's going to be a lot of duplicated lineups this week. I think ownership is going to be fairly concentrated, especially up the top. So we want to kind of look for ways, give you guys some ideas of how to be contrarian, so your lineups stick out a little bit, kind of like a WGC mindset. And we mentioned before in some WGCs that sometimes it's not a bad thing to even leave a little salary sitting on the table, just to make sure your lineups are different. But Kokrak, I feel like, is a way that I hadn't really got to dig into ownership yet, but I don't imagine that he's going to be mega chalk or anything down there. So I feel like that's a kind of interesting way to, maybe make your lineup a little bit contrarian.
Gotcha. So move down to sixes. What do you see? What do you see in there? Anybody that sticks out? A lot of talent there at the top of the sixes.
Yeah, Hubbard jumps out to me right there at 7, just because he's been playing really well. And his proximity numbers are actually really, really strong from 175 plus. And he's scored really, really well on long par fours. I think he's only behind Tony Finau in this field on par fours of 450 yards or longer. Had some really strong finishes over the past, 6-8 weeks. So Hubbard there at 7 is really interesting to me. Lanto Griffin has played fairly well. He's a guy you can look at. And then you get down into those mid-sixes, man. I don't know. Give me your thoughts on it first, but I feel like there's some guys down there that are underpriced this week. Anybody jump out to you down there in the sixes? And we'll see if we're thinking about the same guys this week.
In the sixes, the first guy that sticks out to me is Brendan Steele, and that's because length is not an issue for him ever.
Love it. Yeah, I love it.
Streelman hits it so straight. However, he's probably going to be making a lot of par saves because this golf course is so long. I mean, he's going to be hitting 4 irons, 3 irons, hybrids into some of these par 4s. I know a guy that you kind of been on here quite a bit off and on, Adam Long. What? I mean, he hasn't had great finishes. Had a few top 5s, it looks like, a couple of 3 top 10s this year. I'm not necessarily sold on him, but Brandon Steele really sticks out talent-wise. Steele, Streelman, and honestly, Charles Howell III hits it far enough to play this golf course well, but I don't know. I mean, you never know.
Yeah, Steele is a great call, man. He was one of the names. There were 4 guys down there that really jumped out to me, and Steele was one of them. The other 3 are Taylor Gooch, who also plays long par 4s extremely well. He's in the top 5 in this field and scoring on par 4s of 450 or longer. So Gooch definitely sticks out. Joel Damon, who is hit and miss, we know, but has also popped up for some really strong finishes. And it just feels like he's underpriced this week. You're always kind of gambling with him, but I do like his upside. When he gets hot, he can get really hot and pop you out a top 10 there for 6,700. And the other player down there is Dylan Fratelli, who's been playing extremely well. Missed the cut last week, but we saw play some really good golf over the past month. Those 4 guys just really jumped out at me. I think you could argue that they could be priced $7K and we wouldn't bat an eye. So definitely opens up some opportunities down there, especially when you don't have to worry about a missed cut. All 4 of those guys, in addition to Adam Long, who you mentioned, is kind of always a fun little cheap play because he's explosive. But I think there's a lot of directions you can go down the 6s this week if you want to get really aggressive with your lineup building.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, though, most likely you're going to go down in the 9s and the 8s to build most of your lineup, so you might not need some of these guys down in the 6s. What do you think about that? Is that going to probably?
Yeah, I really like that 9 price point that we talked about with Zanderberger and Morikawa. I really like that area. You can start your lineups there. And then personally, I really like that low 8K range with Wolf and Hovland. So I'll be going there frequently. But if you're building multiple lineups and you want to get stars and scrubsy, aggressive and like a big GPP, and maybe try to stack 2 guys like you want to stack a DJ and a JT, or a DJ and a Xander or somebody like that. I think you can do it this week because there's legit guys down here. Once again, don't have to worry about a missed cut, and you can see Joel Damon like a T9 this week, or you can see Brennan Steele going out and getting hot and putting up a T10. Fratelli's played well. Gooch can get hot. So I mean, I think there's options down there if you want to get frisky, which might not be a bad way to go this week. You can definitely do it.
Absolutely. So we usually always name a guy that we like or dislike or whatever. I'm going to go in first, hanging my hat on somebody I will not be rostering this week, who I'm huge on normally. I'm going to add you back in here to the screen here, Joe. So one guy that I've been rostering unconsciously since the RBC is Abe Answer. I feel like I'm done with him, and I'll tell you why.
Crushed my life last week.
Yeah, I'll tell you why I'm done with him. It seems that these golf courses have gotten harder and harder. His putting has never been his strength, but these golf courses have gotten harder and harder. Not that he don't hit the ball far, but his proximity with the longer irons is obviously not as sharp as it is with the shorter irons. So, and just his form has just not been there like it was in the beginning of the startup. So I'm done with him for a while. Another guy that I'm done with that I, for some reason, keep on rostering, and I thought last week I was going to get you the "I told you so" moment, was Bubba Watson. I really honestly think if it isn't a golf course he just loves, it's not going to be there. I really thought last week might have been because he's had decent history there in the past. So we might pick out like Riviera, the Travelers, and the Masters, and you roster Bubba. Other than that, stay away from him. So those are 2 guys.
It's not a bad strategy with Bubba. He's really, really course specific. I've kind of seen a little bit of buzz about Bubba this week. Actually, I've seen him in a couple of articles. Some people are kind of interested in him, but he's always, like you said, man. There's 3-4 courses I'll target him throughout the season and feel fairly confident about it. But other than that, I feel like he's always just a gamble. He's got a lot of stuff going on. He's been tinkering around with different putters. I think he's actually, for the first time in his career, hired a coach, a swing coach. I think he got with Claude Harmon. I don't know if he actually hired him or just asking for a little help. And anyway, it's the first time he's ever done that. He's never had a golf coach, never had a swing coach. So there's some stuff going on with Bubba. You always wonder what's going on with Bubba, but kind of makes him interesting. But I'm with you on Answer, man. I thought he was way underpriced last week. We didn't get a chance to talk about it because I wasn't on, but I thought he was a great price last week at 7,700. Had him in a ton of lineups, and like you said, man, it almost feels like after the fact, when you can hindsight's 20/20 look back, it feels like we're kind of still riding where he was at the Heritage. where he was in those couple events there, that stretch after the restart. We just hadn't seen the output over the last few weeks. No, not to say that he can't play well, but certainly not a go-to for me or a guy that I'll have much of this week. So I'm with you on those.
I've got a couple guys that I'm going to go with almost unconsciously this week. Number one is going to be Hovland, who's your guy. You're probably going to be the same on him. The other one is Paul Casey. He's already
back to the Casey well.
Back to the Casey well.
Back to the Casey well.
Just makes sense. Obviously, his putting is going to always be a concern. If he can just putt mediocrely, he's going to put together a top 10. Same way with Hovland. Mediocre putting, going to be in the top 10. Probably my biggest question this week is, what do you do in the Berger, Morikawa, Xander slot? Do you play all three? Do you play two of them? Do you play one of them? And if so, which ones do you play? That's the $1 million question, right?
It is. I think you can go. I think you can go with all three if you really want to, because like we talked about, there's some guys down there in the sixes that you can feel fairly comfortable about rostering. I do like all three a lot, which I'm always a Morikawa ride or die guy. I have been since he came on the tour. Loved him at the PGA. I just think he's an amazing player. I think he's capable of winning any event, especially with his iron play. So, I'd probably lean Morikawa or Berger, who I really like and has been so consistent, over Xander. If that helps anybody, I would prefer those two, just a tiny shade over Xander. But I think you can go with two of them or even all three if you want to, kind of get contrarian. But yeah, moving down to the eights, I absolutely love Hovland, love Woodland, or Wolf. I'm sorry, Hovland and Wolf. But Casey, I won't be going back. that ship has sailed for me for 2020, my friend.
I got you. I understand. Well, folks, you've listened to another episode of The Turn, brought to you by Rotoballer.com. Like I said, stay tuned for updates on the Sunday Stroll edition of the pod. Also, if you like what you heard, share it with your friends, like it, subscribe it. That's how we get new listeners. We appreciate it. Round 2 of the playoffs, here we come. Joe, you got any stickers left, buddy?
Yeah, we still got some stickers, man. We got a few, but they're starting to get a little bit scarce. So hit us up on Twitter at the Turn Golf Pod. Just give us a shout out if you want one. We'll try our best to get you one. Just give us a follow on there. Like you said, make sure to check out the YouTube channel. Like and subscribe on there. It helps us a lot. You can listen on Spotify, iTunes, any of those outlets. Check us out. Like us, rate us, all that good stuff. But yeah, if you want a sticker, hit us up. We'll try to get you one out.
Absolutely. And those guys from the PGA, if y'all haven't got your sticker yet, hit us up on Twitter and we'll get you one. So, like I said, you've listened to another episode. Stay tuned for more and exciting things coming up. Round 2 of the playoffs. Here we come, Joe. I'll talk to you soon,
man.
Buddy.
All right. See you, buddy.
See you.
Oh God, I just need you. Straighten me out. If I start to bow, you're taking me down. When you let me go, I'm just asking you how.